Thank you, everyone, for joining us. My name is Joe Chambers, and today I am joined with Mr. Wyatt Thompson, who is the voice of the Kansas State Wildcats. Mr. Thompson, thank you so much for joining me today.
Joe, it is my pleasure. Great to be with you. Looking forward to our visit.
Mr. Thompson is the 2020 Sportscaster of the Year for the state of Kansas. And first of all, congratulations on that great achievement.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I've been very, very fortunate in my career, and especially during my time at Kansas State. NSMA has been very, very good to me, and I'm appreciative of that. So thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. So I have just a few questions to ask you. First off is, what drew you into sportscasting, and what made you want to do this since you started in 1976?
Well, full disclosure here, being as honest as I can possibly be, I think what attracted me to the business was just my love of sport. Unfortunately for me, I was not a very good athlete and knew that. And I just felt like it was something that I wanted to experience and be around. I always enjoyed my time, like in high school, all of the sports, being around the athletes and the coaches. And I thought, hey, why not do that? It's so much fun. And I was very, very blessed early, being around some people that laid a very good foundation for me, or I probably wouldn't have had the long career or a career period. And I'm always appreciative of that. My first boss was a gentleman by the name of Kay Melia, and he was a very, very good broadcaster, and I learned a lot from him, and really a lifetime of kind of knowing him and being mentored by him. I'm very appreciative of that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. My next question would be, what was one of your best calls in your career?
Wow, that's a really good question. I guess for the most part, there are a couple of calls that come to mind. We were very fortunate here for many, many years. Bill Snyder was here a lot prior to me. He came in '89. I came in 2002. But in 2003, his football team won the Big 12 championship in Kansas City at Arrowhead, which is home of the Kansas City Chiefs. And K-State upset a heavily favored Oklahoma team that night. And we had a running back by the name of Darren Sproles, who went on to have a brilliant career in the NFL too. He's like the sixth all-time yardage gainer in terms of all-purpose yards in NFL history too, and was a fabulous talent here. But he was the recipient of a middle screen pass against Oklahoma that kind of opened that game up. And most people, when they ask about a favorite call of mine, I usually give them that, because it was such an amazing night for Coach Snyder and this program, winning a football championship. I believe it was just the second in the history of the program here. So that was really cool. And then, of course, we won another title in 12, but that one sticks out. And then I don't know if it's a single call, but I also, several years ago in 2008 in Salt Lake, had a chance to do a double overtime NCAA tournament game with Kansas State and Xavier. And then we lost to Butler in the final waning moments for the right to go to the Final Four, and with a really, really, really good team, including K-State's all-time leading scorer. So those two events really stick out for me personally.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And also, I just want to mention that he is the Senior Director of Sportscasting as well with the Kansas State University. And Mr. Thompson, one of my next questions is, when you started out, what was one of your first jobs as a sportscaster?
Well, my first job was, I mentioned Kay Melia a moment ago. He hired me right out of school, and I probably really wasn't ready to do it as a professional, meaning being paid for it. I was very, very raw, didn't really know what I was doing. It was a small town radio and television combination stations. So I look back on that time now and think about how blessed I was to not only have his mentorship and his son who worked for him there too, but Joe, I got to do everything. I mean, everything. And I was probably not very good at any of it, but in the 3 years that I was there, it gave me such a broad base whether it was doing football or basketball or any type of play-by-play or interviews, coaches shows, news, production, television, sports, all of that. It laid a foundation for me that's kind of carried me through, and I'm so blessed. Sometimes you just get lucky. You have to improve and get better and all of that. And I, in fairness, I think I did that too. But for me, that floor level beginning was something that I'll never forget, honestly.
That's amazing. What was one of the biggest challenges learning, like one of the biggest things you learned while sportscasting that maybe made you to get to the point where you are today?
Well, I think for me, I was always taught early, in school, in my first job, that this is entertainment and it's supposed to be exciting and fun. And I still, to this day, after 40, 43 plus years, coming up on 44 years, that it is entertainment and people want to be entertained. And I think you also want to be fair. You want to be a homer of sorts. If I'm the voice of the Cats, you better be able to tell from my description that I'm a K-State guy, and yet be fair to Oklahoma or Kansas or whoever it might be. So that was the thing that I think stuck with me first and foremost. And then after that, I think it's just all about trying to be, in our business, it's all about being consistent. It's great to call it a great game. There's no doubt about that. But you also have to do a really, really good job when the team maybe doesn't play as well. You know what I'm saying? So my goal has always been, regardless of who my partner is or what stop I've been at, is to just try to have that entertainment value, story tell. I think that's one thing that I would emphasize there. I hope that's not a lost art in the radio business. I think it's become that a little bit. And there's, I know time is a factor for that, but I think about all of the people I listened to growing up doing professional baseball or football or whatever it might have been. And the personality, I think, is what I remember more so than specific players or specific games.
Thank you for that insight. That's amazing, because I feel like some people, they don't fully understand that, like, you're gonna face those times in sports broadcasting where you get stuck or you don't know how to get around it, or like even like when you said when the team's losing and it's a beatdown, like how do you
Yeah.
still stay motivated or give off like a good energy during that sportscasting? I think that's really important fact that you stated.
It is, Joe. That's well said. And I think for me, I'd probably give you the perfect example here. This last year at K-State, we really suffered through a very difficult and tough and long basketball season. We won just 9 games. A couple of years prior to that, we were co-champions of one of the best leagues in the country. So you have to be able to handle the good with the bad and the bad with the good. And I've always said this, you never really know who's listening, but they are listening. And you better treat it as they are, even if you're a team that is struggling and getting, whooped a lot of nights, because you've got a lot of people that love this place and are committed to it and always will be. They care about it. And that isn't going away. And I try to look at my job that way each and every day.
Thank you for that insight. Just want to getting close to wrapping this interview up. My last question would be something that a lot of people that want to get into the sportscasting business would love to hear is advice. What is something for a college graduate who's just straight out of college, just graduated in the fall or the spring? What would be your best advice to give to someone trying to get into the sports business to get their foot in the door?
Well, as I've tried to explain to you through the course of our conversation today, Joe, I was very, very lucky in the beginning of my career to be surrounded by people that could help me and advise me, and did so. With that said, I try to do that now. It's kind of a pay it forward kind of thing. And there are so many so many quality broadcasters in this country doing what I do. So use that resource, lean on us, send tapes, have them critiqued. Don't be afraid to be constructively criticized, because that's how you get better. And the marketing side of that, don't be afraid to market yourself. Talk to people that can help you. Again, other pros in the business or what have you. And in that first job, just try to do whatever you have to do to get in the door. Get your foot in the door. And once you do that, part of it's up to you in terms of, you're probably not going to get a job right out of college more times than not just doing the one thing you love, whether it's sports play-by-play or, television news or whatever it might be. So be willing to do all of it. And I believe that if you do that, it will make you better at what you really love anyway. I think that's what I'm trying to say here, is that through that early stage for me, being able to do so many different things helped me as a play-by-play man. And I will go to my grave believing that, for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I really appreciate the advice, and a lot of other people would really appreciate that advice. And thank you so much for your time. It was an absolute pleasure chatting with you before our conversation started and during the interview. It's amazing to learn about your career path and best call. And I really appreciate this interview, and I really cannot thank you enough.
Well, it was my pleasure. I enjoyed talking to you too, prior to recording, and then during this last few minutes. I've really been blessed to do this. I've met a lot of good young people. Stay in touch, and for those people that want to get in touch with me, tell them to look me up on the internet. I'm at kstatesports.com. I'll help any young broadcaster that needs help or wants help. Just holler at me.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening.